Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood-turning tools. Made by a wood-turner, for wood-turners. Now I'm driving my Cadillac, my big old fat spindle gouge. And see, it's easier to control when you're making long, slow tapers and curves. You can still come in and make a point. You can still do these angles, but it helps me shape this handle better. Now, I have a little bit of a flat spot here, so I'm actually going to use this and come back and forth and just hold it flat like that and remove the extra wood. A real quick way to get rid of it. I'm not going for pretty. I'm just going for wood removal at this point. So I'm just kind of shifting my body back and forth. Because why keep making that curve if I'm going to have to turn it away anyway, because it's not round there. It's still flat. There we go. Okay, now, if you want to turn left-handed, this is how you do it. I'm not that good at it. Everybody's good at one or the other. Some people are great at both. I hate you. But anyway, by going left-handed now, I'm centered and I'm right here. If I go right-handed, I've got to turn all the way over here and make this cut, which is cool because the way this lathe is designed, this is one of the narrowest headstocks I've ever seen, so I can get right up here on the spindle, and I do have the angle I need. It just looks like I'm kind of getting ready for a fight or something coming in like this. But you can see I can make that shape really nicely, and I prefer that. But let's go over here, clean that up. This is how you go left-handed. So, tool is on the tool rest, handle's into my side. I'm rubbing the bevel, nothing's cutting, so I lift, and it starts to cut a little bit. Once it starts to cut, then I just lean my body into it and make the shape I want. There we go. And actually turning left-handed makes me slow down. And making me slow down is a good thing at times because you get in a hurry, you make mistakes. But let's go back to my old ways. Right-handed. So, we've got our curve going. And you can see I position my hand in different ways as I'm turning, whatever feels right. I'm not using my left hand for any pushing or anything. I'm using my body to do that with the handle into my side, but I'm using my left hand to keep the tool down. If you don't hold the tool down, you get bounce and chatter. So I'm going to shift my weight. Now I'm going back to what feels like a normal direction for me. And I also, you know, when I'm turning, one thing is don't stand with your feet together like this. You're going to fall over. You want to take a stance that means something. You want to have stability while you're turning. So I'm not going to get out of balance and fall over. That wouldn't be a good thing. It'd be entertaining to have on camera, but it wouldn't be a good thing. So anyway, I've got my curve going the way I want it right there. And so the next thing I'm going to do is get out my smaller spindle gouge and make a bead down here for the end of the handle. I am moving back to my swept back small spindle gouge, and I'm just going to move out some of the excess wood here. The more wood you get out of the way, the easier it is for you to make your cuts. So I want a bead right here. I'm going to roll the tool. I roll it. I lift the handle. A good friend of mine, Don Derry, has a phrase that I love it. He says, you don't have to do the hero cut. The hero cut he is referring to is the ability to make your shape all in one big fell swoop. If you don't get the shape you want right off the bat, if the tool bevel comes off the wood, that's okay. You can pick it up like I'm doing right here in the middle of the cut. It might not be as smooth, but that's okay. That's why we have sandpaper. We love that stuff. So anyway, I've got a bead here, and what I'm trying to do with this bead is I want it to complement the other bead on the other end. Again, symmetry is nice. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to move a little bit of wood out of the way because we're going to sand in a minute, and the more of this wood I have removed, the less I'll have to hand sand later when I nip the ends off on this. Now, let's put a little decoration on here. I could use a skew to make these marks, but this carbide tip scraper has a very, very sharp point on it. So I'm going to take it in at a 45-degree angle, make a mark, make another mark. Now here's the hard part, make the third mark the same distance. That looks good. Now, we're just going to take our tool rest and pull it out of the way. And I have what is called a burning wire. It's actually a guitar string, and it's wrapped around two handles. Make sure if you make one of these, put it on handles. You do not want to do that with your finger in this case. Bad things can happen. You don't believe me? Get on the internet. So I'm going to take this underneath and put it in that groove, and I'm going to pull up. Now this is dark wood, but yet this will make a black mark. This wood is more of a brown color, so this will just give it a little bit of a highlight. You can see the smoke. Smells great. At least in this case, you don't ever want to smell this any other time in your shop. But by putting it underneath and pulling up, I'm putting pressure up as I pull. If this wire breaks, what do? I fall back away from this. If I'm putting it on top and pushing down and it breaks, what happens? I go into my work, I can catch a shirt sleeve, I can get hurt, I can ruin the piece I'm working on. Not a good thing. Ow! And don't touch the wire. It's hot. Okay, so I'm going to get everything out of the way and cleaned up, and we're going to sand this. Okay, I'm geared up for sanding. I have a mask on so I don't breathe in the dust. I have a HEPA filter running in the background to get all the fine stuff out of the air. I've got the lathe on, and I've reduced the speed to about 500. You want to go slow when you sand so you don't build up heat. And also, it just gets the grit more in contact with the wood, which is a good thing. If it's spinning too fast, it'll jump over any really bad spots you have. I've also got a piece of paper here that I've folded over 3 times. That keeps my fingers protected from any of the heat, but at the same time, it's a nice size that I can control. Now, when you're sanding, make sure you don't kill any of the detail you made. So don't round things over or flatten things off. You just want to be careful as you move this. Now, I'm working with 150, and I'm only going to go to 220 on this, so I have one more grit after this. So I do this until I see a nice smooth color in the wood, like this, and there's no marks there, so I know I've sanded that flat. And then I just move on to the next piece, or the next section of the handle. Well, now we're going to turn the top. Well, how do you hold this thing on the lathe? Well, one of the good ways of doing that is with what we call a collet chuck, and it's a little sleeve here, and it's got slits in it, right? And those will clamp down and hold the wood. But right now it spins. Well, it's got threads on this end, and it's a Morse taper, and then I have a drawbar here, which this is going to screw into through the headstock, right? Well, the cool thing about this is it tightens down, so it draws this in and pinches it. And I drilled a hole here, and I'll show you why I did that in just a second, because this frustrated me for years in doing tops. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get things down nice and tight. But anyway, I'm screwing this on. It's going into the threads and pulling down. So I can hand tighten this like so, right? But this still turns because it's smooth. The wood is slick. And I'm going to bring the tailstock up in a second right now. And when it comes up, I'm going to put pressure in. Well, I'll keep pushing it into there so it won't stand still for me, so it's not easy. Well, what I figured out was I'm going to lock in my headstock right there so it's not going to move. I drilled that hole so I can put a bar into here. Now I have torque, and I can pull this down, loosen the headstock, rotate it back again, lock it down one more time, come here, and by doing this, torque is drawing this in really tightly, and now look, it will not spin, so that also means it won't push inside. So we're going to bring the tailstock up, and one thing I did, this one has a removable point. So usually these have a point and a little cup. Well, by taking the point out, this is going to center the dowel rod inside that little cove that's in there. So now I'm dead centered with the stem of this, and it's going to make it a lot easier to turn this. Now I'm going to use my swept-back spindle gouge for this, but this piece of wood is not oriented like a spindle piece of wood. It's oriented like a bowl. So I have end grain coming towards me, so I want to go from side to side to make my cleanest cut on this. Now all I'm doing is cleaning up the edge. That's perfectly clean. And now I'm going to start shaping it a bit, and I'm going to take the tool rest and just take it in a little bit so I have a little more support. Tool's not hanging out so far over the tool rest now. Now, to make a good cut, I need to go down into the wood for it to be supported with the grains. I've seen people come like this and start turning like this, and you get all squealy and bad. I actually like coming back here, putting the tool on its side, and pulling like so. I like to leave a lot of weight in my tops. I don't like to get too fancy with them because the heavier they are, the better they spin, which is what it's all about. I'm going to clean that edge up just a little bit there. Now this transition right here into the stem, we want to smooth it out where it's glued. So I'm going to whittle it down a little bit. I'm just curving it. And there's that glue joint. I'm coming just like that. Now, for aesthetics, I'll come back, make a little diamond shape right here. I can make a little one right there. Opportunity just arose because of that. Make that right there. There we go. And now we want to scoop out for the tip. You can see now why I have this extra wood, because it makes it easier to make the tip of the top. I said that, didn't I? Okay. We're going to leave it like so, because the next step is we want to swing over to the handle, and we're just going to simply smooth out this side just like we did the other and make it nice and smooth. One thing to keep in mind, if you do this and you make this too narrow, you get a lot of vibration, so you can always bring your finger up on the other side to help dampen some of that vibration. That way you won't get a bunch of little ripply marks on your wood. And this is Purple Heart, and it's very hard to sand this, so you want to leave the best finish on it as possible. So we're going to come in here, and actually I'm going to come in this way and just kind of taper it in like so, because the handle's just a long straight thing. Okie doke, that looks good. Now there's one thing I want to do before I sand and put a wax on this. We have to drill a hole for the string in the handle. So I marked it with an awl. I'm going to start drilling here very carefully. And I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on here because I want to reduce the tear out on the other side. But if it does tear out, that's going to go away, because the next step is to sand. And then I'm going to put a wax finish on this. Okay, we have it sanded and finished, but how do we get the sucker off of here? Well, this is the fun part. We're going to come in with our spindle gouge and gently clear out the wood here. Little bit at a time, and we're going to make a really sharp point. And pretty soon this is going to break free. There we go. Okay, it's free. I'm going to take my hand wheel, move this back. Everything's going good right now, right? So it's holding itself. So the next thing is to put your hand up here lightly. It's not going to burn you. Trust me, it won't. If you grab it tightly, it will. I'm just going to come in here and part this end off. One more little cut here. There we go, we have our top. Okay, I'm working on my little pull handle now. It's made out of hickory. And it's just like turning the big handle. You just make a couple shapes, a couple beads. The only difference I'm doing this time is I put a slot in my other handle. Well, I drilled a hole just like we did in the top, because I think it's going to hold the string a lot better. So I'm going to finish this, part it off the lathe, and then we're ready to have some fun. Well, I went to the bandsaw and I nipped the ends off on the handles, on the top, and on the big handle, and then sanded them. So let's give this thing a test. Whoa, that thing's traveling. Now, that has a wax finish, and then I put polyurethane on the hickory and on the wenge, and it really looks good. So anyway, that is how to make a string top with a brilliant, elegant handle, I think. Until the next time, keep turning. and spinning. And spinning. And spinning.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.